Hello, and welcome to today's session on understanding geography with diagrams. Today, we'll be talking about weathering. Now, let's start. Now, what is weathering? Now, the simple definition that we got for weathering is nothing but in situ decomposition and disintegration of rocks. This is more than enough to describe what is weathering. Now, what is in situ? In situ means that wherever the rock is, means the rock with wherever the rock is or wherever the landform is, it is within that particular position of the landform, it is decomposed and disintegrated. Next, what are the controls of weathering? Means what actually affects the weathering. The first and foremost is your composition of the rocks. See, rocks with soluble minerals are more prone to weathering. Example is rock constituting calcium carbonate are more prone to chemical weathering. As all of us know that calcium carbonate is easily soluble in water. Hence, rainwater or running water can easily dissolve your calcium carbonate. Next is your structure of the rock. It says that well jointed rock and rock with the vertical strata are more vulnerable to mechanical disintegration. Now, what is mechanical disintegration? We'll also learn about it, but just understand these two things, that is well jointed rock. See, if this is a rocks and these rocks are actually jointed, means they are not as complete strata, rather parts of it are jointed, then what happens is that it would be subjected to mechanical disintegration. Now, what is mechanical disintegration? Mechanical disintegration basically happens is that in the morning time or in the daytime, the rocks are heated by the sun, and as a result of which they expand. Now, what happens during the night time? During the night time, they contract. This expansion and contraction simultaneously will lead to the weakening of the structure of the rock. Hence, they are subjected to disintegration. Next is the rocks with the vertical strata. Means when I say vertical, it obviously means that rocks which are in the vertical strata. Again, these rocks are more prone to mechanical disintegration. Why? Because the rocks which are with the vertical strata, they have a differential heating. Means, see, if the sun basically, what happens as we know is that sunrise in India, that sun rises in the east and sets in the west. Now, when the sun is actually traveling, then it will result in your differential heating of this entire region, as a result of which the rocks will disintegrate. Next, it says that rocks with the horizontal strata are more compact, hence are less affected by mechanical disintegration. It says that rocks with the horizontal strata, now this is called your a horizontal structure. It says that when the rocks are of the horizontal structure, they are less subjected to mechanical disintegration. Why? Let's consider again the sun rising in the east and then setting in the west. Now, again, as you see that the sun, basically what happens is that the rays are directly slanting and almost they have a almost a similar temperature. Hence, as a result, they are not subjected to so much of disintegration. But it says that they are less affected by mechanical disintegration. When I say they are less affected, it means that yes, they are affected by mechanical disintegration, but when we compare it to the vertical strata, they are less affected. I hope you got this clarity. Next, nature of the ground slope. The rocks in the steep hills slopes are more prone to mechanical weathering, especially by running water. This is very easy. Slope. I hope all of us have the general understanding of what is a slope. Now, this is a slope. It says that rock in the steep hill slope. What is steep hill slope? That is, which is very, very steep. Means it has a gradient which is very steep. Next, it says that it's more prone to mechanical weathering, especially by the running water. It says that basically in a steep rock, what happens is that whenever there is the flow of the running water, it would basically have what? High velocity. The velocity would be very high, and with this high velocity, what happens is that the eroding power is also more. Hence, rocks with the steep slope or with the steep profile will have a higher erosion by the none other than your running water. One more thing that you need to understand is that running water is also called your universal agent of erosion. Next, climate variation. See, weathering varies with climate. How? In the humid tropical area, I wrote it as AF and AM. If you do not understand the meaning of AF and AM, I would request and suggest you to watch the video on Köppen's climatic classification. Now, in the humid tropical area, in such region, the chemical weathering is dominant due to the prevalence of high temperature and water. When I call water, is nothing but your precipitation when compared to your mechanical weathering. I hope you got the clarity that in the humid tropical area, since in the humid tropical area the amount of rainfall is more, as a result of which running water remains a dominant form of erosion. And again it says that in such region that your chemical weathering is more dominant because of your high temperature and presence of the water when compared to your mechanical weathering. Next, in the tropical and the semi-arid areas, tropical means BWH, BWK and CS. Now from the BWH, BWK and from the CS, you could easily guess that these are none other than desert regions. Now in this desert region, that mechanical weathering remains a dominant because of the temperature variation causing the expansion and contraction of the rocks in day and night respectively. I hope you get that. During the daytime, the rocks are warmed up, as a result they expand, and during the night time they cool, as a result they contract. In the desert, what happens that during the night time the temperature even fall below 0 degrees centigrade, hence they contract. Next, in the temperate and the polar climate, again chemical weathering remains dominant. Again, why does the chemical weathering remains dominant? Because of in the temperate region, as we know, let's say your CF type of the climate or the DF type of the climate. In this DF type of the climate, what happens is that 30 centimeter of rainfall is well distributed throughout the year. Similarly, in the polar climate, it is the action of none other than your moving or the moving glaciers or the ice. Again, this what they do is that they subject the entire landscape into the entire landscape is subjected to your chemical weathering. Next, seasonal variation in the climate generates different condition of weathering. For example, in monsoonal climate, rocks are subjected to chemical weathering, whereas in the dry season, mechanical weathering remains dominant. Please understand this. It says that in India we have a monsoon in 3 months period. Let us say the 3 months period starts with the June and ends with the September month. It's almost a 4 months period. Now within this 4 months period, what happens is that these rocks would be subjected to your weathering. Whereas in the dry season, what happens? They will be what will remain dominant? It's none other than your mechanical weathering. Hence, you can see that with the variation in the climate, that is from the humid tropical to semi-arid to the temperate to polar climate, as well as the seasonal variation of the climate is basically responsible for the weathering. Next, presence and absence of vegetation. Now this is very easy. Most of you would have the common idea that wherever there is vegetation, let's say trees, etc., what they do is that they actually interfere with the activity of the rainfall, means they actually block the rainfall in this and hence what happens is that there is less weathering. Let's read the statement. Region where the vegetation is absent or scarce are more prone to weathering. This is an obvious thing because they actually cannot wherever in especially in desert region the vegetation is very low, hence it cannot obstruct the incoming rainfall or the incoming sunlight. Next, hence mechanical weathering remains a dominant thing, especially in your desert, and chemical weathering remains in your pole. See, poles and deserts, how do we differentiate that? Now poles and desert is something that we differentiate it by the basis of your climate. But what is the similarity in the poles and desert? Remember that in poles as well as in your desert, the evaporation is greater than your precipitation. Remember this. Both in your desert as well as pole, the evaporation is more than the precipitation. Next, regions where the vegetation is dominant, weathering varies. For example, vegetation protects the rock from the exposure to sun. At the same time, their roots penetrate the earth's surface, resulting in the weathering. Added to it is the microorganisms in the rhizosphere that supports weathering. See, understand this total statement. This total statement says that even if there is a presence of vegetation, it does not mean that there is no weathering. See, on the top, see, this is your surface. On the surface we have a vegetation. Now this vegetation, what it will do, it will protect this surface from the sunlight, number one. Again, it will protect the surface from your rainfall. But think of it, the root of this vegetation that is penetrating deep into this surface, what will it do? It will crack the surface, number one. Number two, it will help in the growth of the microorganism that will continue decaying of this rock. But at the end of the day, it's because of this vegetation, what happens is that it actually prevents the fluvial part or your fluvial or the flowing water from eroding this entire surface. So basically you can see is that on one hand they are protecting the surface from weathering, that is from the sunlight and as well as from the running water, but on the other hand it is the roots and the microbial decomposition that is also supporting weathering. Next, let us understand the types of weathering based upon the agents. Based upon the agents, the types of weathering are physical, chemical and biological. Next, within the physical weathering, you know that it is your running water, glacier, wind. Next, let's move on. The running rock disintegration due to the variation in the temperature, frost and wind action, etc. See, block disintegration due to the temperature variation. See, understand this. What is this block disintegration? See, what happens is that suppose this is your rock. Again, in the daytime it will be warmer, hence it will expand. Again, in the night time it will be cooler, hence it will contract. This expansion and contraction has result or results in what? In your block disintegration. Block disintegration is nothing but the entire the entire boulder is divided or is broken down into blocks, and it occurs because of your alternative heating and cooling of the rocks during night and daytime respectively, causing block disintegration. Example is your granite. The granites are more subjected to your block disintegration due to temperature variation. Next, block disintegration is also caused due to unloading of the superincumbent load. Sorry, it's the superincumbent load. Let me just rectify the spelling over here. Now, what is the superincumbent load? See, suppose this is your structure, right? And upon this structure, there are many more rocks. So what actually happens is that this rocks actually creates a pressure over this rock. Now consider the situation when this is totally removed. Hence the entire pressure over here is removed. As a result of which what happens? It again expands, and this expansion leads to your block disintegration. Next, blocks disintegration due to the frost action. See, the process is more active in those areas which are very often characterized by alternative process of freezing and thawing of water, mainly during the night and day respectively. See, I had already said you that in the desert itself, what happens is that the nighttime temperature even falls below 0 degrees centigrade. Means it has a freezing temperature over there. Now in this context, what happens is that supposingly this is your rock and this is your cracks which are present in the rock. Now within this cracks, what happens is that the water gets deposited, and at night time what happens? The water is freezed, and in the daytime what happens? The water is thawed. What is thawed? Means the water melts, but at the night time what happens? It freezes. Now what happens during the time of the freezing? It actually, what happens is that it actually expands the rock. Whenever the water freezes within the rock, it expands the rock. Now how does the water gets within the rock? The water gets into the rock from the cracks and surfaces, and this water is nothing but your frost or your atmospheric moisture. And what happens that during the daytime when it melts, what happens is that again it contracts and results in what? The expansion contraction, resulting in your disintegration, or we say block disintegration. I hope you got the clarity of this. Next is your granular disintegration due to temperature change. I want you to look at this diagram. See, it says that here granular disintegration occurs when rocks have varying composition. Understand this. Rocks with varying composition leads to variation in the absorption of heat. See, let us consider this is a rock. Half part is formed of granite and another part is formed of limestone. Remember that granite in the desert areas are more prone to mechanical weathering than the limestone. Limestone in desert area are not prone to mechanical weathering. Please understand this. But granite in desert areas are more prone to this mechanical weathering. Remember that limestone in humid areas are prone to chemical weathering. Next, it says that let us see that a rock which is composed of granite and a rock which is composed of limestone. Variation in the absorption of heat. Obviously, there would be a variation in the absorption of heat leads to the differential expansion and contraction. See, granite will expand more when compared to limestone. As a result of this, what happens? The granite will first of all will disintegrate more than the limestone. Hence, it says that rocks are disintegrated into a smaller particles, leads to granular disintegration. So, granular disintegration is nothing but when there is a disintegration, it becomes basically it leads to the development of your granules, and such occurs only in the condition when the rock has varying composition. Next, shattering due to rain shower. This is very easy. Understand this. Desert region, rocks are highly heated during the day. That's again corrected. Rocks are highly heated during day. And as we had already said that the desert regions are also, there is also torrential rainfall in the desert region. What is this torrential rainfall? It's nothing but a sudden rainfall. Now such sudden rainfall will lead to light drizzle, and such light drizzles will lead to your crack on the rock. Now this simple example I can explain to you is that, see, whenever you have heard of this mercury light. Now what happens that when the mercury light is hot, just throw a pinch of water or a drop of water on it, you'll see that it will just get shattered, means the glass will break. It is nothing but this simple mechanism. Whenever a thing is heated and all of a sudden there is water falls over it, then it gets shattered, and this is called as your shattering due to rain shower. This is the basic example of your block disintegration. I have taken up the picture. See, this whole rock is separated, and this could be, and the following reasons that we had discussed are basically responsible for it. Next is your exfoliation. Exfoliation, as I have already mentioned over here, is none other than your onion peeling. See, when you peel an onion, basically you see that there are many layers that covers it. Similar form of onion peeling is called exfoliation in case of your rocks. That is, they follow this onion peeling procedure while disintegration. Look at this. See, this type of weathering is common in the hot arid and the semi-arid and monsoonal region, and occurs more over the crystalline rocks. How does it occur? Again, we have the same differential heating and cooling of the surface rock. It leads to flaking, that is, rock surface is detached from the rock mass. Rock flakes are removed by the wind. And see, this is the simple system. Heating cooling leads to the formation of your rock flakes. Wind, what it will do is that it will remove this rock flakes. Next, what happens is that again there will be heating and cooling, again rock flakes would be developed. Again wind will come, again it will remove the rock flakes. Until, see, this is basically an example. See how the flaking has occurred. As you can see, the layers of rocks are falling apart. It is nothing because of the differential heating and cooling leads to this flaking, and this flaking is removed by your winds. Next, Slaking weathering. Understand this? This is very easy. It refers to the disintegration of the rock due to alternate wetting and drying of rock. Wherein means this is a particular rock, all of a sudden it's wet and all of a sudden it's heated. Weighted, heated, weighted, heated. Wetting and heating leads to your slaking weathering. And I will read the statement now. Consequent expansion and contraction of the rock shell results in the disaggregation of the rocks. Disaggregation of the rocks due to the growth of salt crystal forms the solution that is called your salt weathering, which generally occurs in your hot arid areas. It may be important in the rocks of the coastal areas. Next is your chemical weathering. See, chemical weathering is nothing but decomposition and disintegration of the rock due to chemical reaction. Simple. Next, what are the different types of chemical weathering? The first and foremost is your solution. We have already studied about the solution, but still then let's see. Dissolution of the minerals and particles from the rock within the help of the water in motion. Example is your rocks which are rich in calcium carbonate. Next is your oxidation. Oxidation is nothing but the chemical process of oxidation, means a reaction of the atmospheric oxygen to form your oxide. Just see this. Oxygen when combined with the water leads to combined with the water, and then when they react with the minerals of the rock leads to mineral oxide in the rock, hence resulting in your chemical weathering. Next, carbonation. What is this carbonation? Understand this from the equation. Carbon dioxide reacting with water leads to the formation of your carbonic acid. This water is nothing but your precipitation, and this carbon dioxide is nothing but your atmospheric CO2. And this dissolves the rocks which are rich in calcium carbonate. Simple. Hydration. The process of hydration is related to addition of water to the mineral. Simple. The rocks, after having absorbed the water, undergoes the process of positive change of their volume process of hydration, changing feldspar, dilute. See, let me give you a very simple example. Gypsum that is found in the desert. Now what happens is that gypsum within the rock, when they come in contact with the atmospheric moisture, what will happen is that they will absorb the atmospheric moisture and expand. And when they are dried out, they will contract. And this expansion and drying and contraction leads to the disintegration of the rock, or the block disintegration of the rock. Next, hydrolysis is the process where both minerals of the rock and the water molecule decompose, react in such a way that new mineral compounds are formed. Silicate minerals are most affected by this hydrolysis. See, in the hydration, what happens is that no new minerals were formed, but in the hydrolysis, what is happening? A new mineral is forming, that is resulting in your disintegration. Last but not least is your chelation. What is this chelation? Complex organic process by which metallic cations are incorporated into hydrocarbon molecules. How does it occur? It occurs when the plant extract the minerals from the soil. See, chelation is nothing but a type of weathering, that chemical weathering that basically takes place none other than in your temperate region, or where there is the taiga type of the climate. See, what they do is that the soil, within the soil, what will happen is that the plant, they actually extract the mineral from the soil, or they take away the metallic cation incorporated. The complex organic process by which metallic cations are incorporated into hydrocarbon molecules. It occurs when plant extract the mineral from the soil. Plants, when extract the minerals from the soil, what happens is that the soils are deprived of these minerals, and as a result, there would be weathering. Now, such thing can also happen over a rock surface over which the plants are growing. They will basically extract the minerals out of this rock, resulting in your disintegration. Next is your biotic weathering. Weathering caused by the action of plants and animals, including human. Again, we have the floral or the plant weathering. See, physical weathering as well as chemical weathering. Plants support both type of weathering, physical and chemical. Physical, how? I have already explained, penetration of the plant roots into the rocks. How chemical? As plant carry out in the rhizosphere. Rhizosphere is nothing but the roots of the plants due to accumulation of the organic matters. See, next is here your faunal weathering. Faunal weathering is nothing but the weathering done by the animal. Faunal, such as burrowing animal, not just extracts the mineral but helps in mixing of the soil. Next is your anthropogenic weathering. What is this anthropogenic weathering? Anthropogenic weathering is nothing but the weathering caused by the humans. Example is your mining with the help of deforestation and construction. Next, geomorphic importance of weathering. See, weathering is one of the important process of the soil formation. Next, weathering material provides shelter to multiple small-sized fauna and microorganisms. Next, it helps in the enrichment of ores. It helps in the extraction of the ores. Next, it helps in the construction of infrastructure as they reduce the height of the relief and helps in the evolution of the landscape. Now, this is how we write in general, but as a geographer, we should look into this. That actually what we are being provided by the weathering, that we call it as provision, how it supports us, how it regulates the mineral and the content and in the atmosphere, and what is the cultural service that it is being providing. See, with the real help of provision, we say that it provides us with the soil, hence supports your agriculture. Next, it helps us in the deriving the mineral ore. Next, support services. With respect to support, it says that it supports flora. Obviously, when we have the soil, soil supports your forest, and we have the fauna, small microorganisms such as the earthworm and other types of creatures such as the rodents that makes the burrow within the soil. It's also being provided by your weathering. Next is your regulation. What exactly it regulates? See, it regulates your mineral cycle in the atmosphere, like the phosphorus cycle. One of the major source of phosphorus are the rocks within the rocks, and the breaking and weathering of the rocks leads to your release of the phosphorus into the atmosphere. Next, cultural. See, weathering modifies the landscape. It gives the landscape a unique feature, and this unique landscapes are actually the main tourist destination. I hope you get that. This that will be all for today. Thank you for today's class.